This time I got to speak with Erika Haigh. She is the director and co-owner of London's first independent sake bar. And Erika herself is fantastic. Our mutual friend introduced us saying that you both like sake. And her sake bar, Moto London, is on a mission to demystify sake. So it's serving as a sake bar, an eatery, a sake shop, and a sake school where you can learn about sake, drink sake, and shop sake. So how fabulous is that? Hi, Erika!
サリカさん、
こんにちは。
ちょっと待って、ビデオを今。おもう初めましてって感じ。
初めましてだけど、もうなんか長年知っているような。
Yeah, it's so weird, but the second I'm so happy that David connected us. Seriously, I just went through your account and I just felt like you're such a like-minded person, and I just loved all the content you're putting out there. So
that's what I think about. Oh, it's amazing. I have the London website right here, and incredible that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so super excited to have a chat today.
Oh, Erika, thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. And look at that sake selection. So, Erika, you opened Moto last year, around now.
Yes. So this upcoming Monday will actually be our 1-year anniversary, which is unbelievable. Thank you so much. I mean, sure, a lot of the times we were closed. We were not expecting a global pandemic.
Nobody was.
Very unlucky on our part. So we've had to close our doors twice because we had 2 lockdowns here in the UK. But, you know, we're very fortunate that we made it through. Lots of businesses can't say the same, as sad as it is. So very happy that we're welcoming our first birthday. And hopefully round 2 we'll have less lockdowns and we could, you know, just continue on without as much disturbances, let's say, to our plans. And yeah.
First, to begin with, Erika, how did you even... Okay, so Moto is the first kind of sake bar, independent sake bar in London. So it's so special. And how did you come up with that idea? And well, first of all, how did you even...
Lots of questions, yeah. So how did I get into sake? This is such a... I always struggle with this question because there wasn't an aha moment, you know? There wasn't like a bottle of sake that just changed my life forever. In fact, when I was growing up in Japan, I was born and raised there and I lived there until I was 18. And my mom's Japanese, my dad's Canadian. But growing up in Japan, I think I only drank sake like a handful of times. Like sake was not anywhere near my radar. My parents did not drink sake. They drank beer and wine. So sake was not something I was ever... that I ever came across, but the fact that now sake is a part of my identity, it's a part of it's definitely my passion, it's my career, it makes so much sense now that sake is a part of my life. And I think that's because I think growing up in Japan, I went to an international school, so, you know, I was always surrounded by English speakers. I felt like I didn't belong in Japan. So when I lived in Japan, unfortunately, I was always excited about leaving Japan. So when I actually left Japan when I was 18, and from then onwards, I've been living abroad, first in Canada, then here in the UK. Only after leaving Japan did I start to appreciate Japan's beauty. And when I came across sake, sake was that key almost to unlock these different countryside towns, these sleepy towns where usually sake breweries are located. That's how I explored like different regions of Japan, different cultural traditions, different food cultures. because I grew up mostly in Tokyo, and Tokyo is just a metropolitan city. It's not authentic, true Japan. But through sake, I got to, basically fall back in love with my own country. So maybe you felt the same, I don't know, but sometimes you think like the grass is green on the other side, and that truly was what Japan was for me. Only after I left and through sake did I fall back in love with Japan. So that's one huge aspect. And another big aspect is, growing up, I always wanted to pursue a career in which I was, I always wanted to help people. So I thought going into law was going to be my path, but then I soon changed to, I worked in the nonprofit realm for a number of years because I thought that was my way. And then I came into the world of hospitality because, it's not your textbook definition of how to help someone, but I thought bringing people together and food and drinks, like, just the merriment is just, maybe it could brighten up someone's day. It could brighten up someone's week, someone's year, who knows? So that's kind of how I came into the world of hospitality. And I first did it through wine. So while I was working as a wine sommelier, I just thought, why not study this sake thing? I was just like, I'm Japanese, why not? So I took the Wine and Spirits Education Trust. They have a course on sake, so I just took that. And then so many things unfolded. Kind of what I was telling you earlier with my appreciation for Japan grew. It was bloody tasty. I just loved drinking sake. But also I found out that the world of sake in Japan is actually, it's really starting to diminish, like compared to the heyday of sake in the 1970s, it's, both consumption and supply has just shrunk. And I thought, how tragic that Japan's national drink is not even consumed by most of Japanese people. Who knows what's going to happen to the future if we all don't revive it? So I thought, if I really want to help people, sure, bringing, people together over good food and drinks is great, but it's also great if I could help in some way, shape, or form, like the suppliers, the artisan craftsmen in Japan who are making these amazing products, and help spread the word. And I speak English and Japanese, so I thought, how appropriate. So again, sorry, very long explanation, but I don't really have like a one word reason as to why I work with sake, but all these different things happen. And I thought it just felt right. There was a time where sake, this is it, this is my thing. And here in London, you really don't see sake too much. It's still a foreign thing. So before Moto was born, the only way you would drink sake is you would go to a fancy Japanese restaurant, so with sushi. Sure, maybe at a ramen place, which isn't as fancy, but basically it just had to be at a Japanese restaurant. You can't casually walk into a bar and drink sake. And I think that was putting up a barrier because sake is something that's so foreign. It's something that on a Japanese night you have with sushi, or it's not accessible and people don't know anything about it. Even at the Japanese restaurants where there's sake, even the people serving sake, I just noticed here in London and probably a lot of places in the world, there's not an education to the people serving sake. So how are the consumers supposed to even appreciate something that's so foreign? So all of these things made me believe that there needs to be a bar dedicated to sake. So that's where Moto was born, with an amazing team now. Almost a year ago, like we discussed, we opened our doors as the UK's first independent sake bar. We're also a shop you could take away, or you could buy stuff online. And we also call ourselves an eatery because authentic Japanese beverage drinking culture, it's very, you always eat with drinks. It's not just, especially here in the UK, people go to the pub and just have a pint. That's not the case in Japan. In Japan, you're always eating when you have drinks. And I think sake is such a good pairing with food. So we really focus on our food offering as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
So fantastic. And I even have your menu open right here.
You have to come and try it, please, once we could travel again.
Love to. I guess you don't deliver to Warsaw.
Not quite.
Fantastic. And you have all these really craft sake. I mean, not just sake. And wow, such a
yeah. So that's also something big I wanted to concentrate on is, there's already importers here in the UK bringing in sake from Japan. So I thought instead of shedding light on brewers who are already here, why not shed light on equally amazing breweries who perhaps have never even thought about having their sake showcased in London. Maybe they don't have the means to do so, or it's just not something accessible to them. So I really just went throughout Japan, they were shocked. I was like, I really want to showcase your sake in London. And they're like, what? Like, it was very like, I had to do a lot of convincing, and then they warmed up to me after hearing our ethos and things like that. But I thought, why not bring some fresh blood and just to show the variety of sake, because sake, like through this wall, what I try to convey this as soon as you enter Moto is look at the variety of sake available, the spectrum of flavors, aromas, food pairing options, but also the number of breweries. And so I didn't want to do what you could find at a different restaurant. I wanted to just do different people and different products.
Oh, it's so fantastic what you're doing. I mean, it's like it's not just a bar. You have like it's like an all-in-one place. You're also educating your customer.
Yeah, I love how you say that. And that means the world that it comes across that way. Because I do think, again, trying to break down the barriers of entry into sake, education is really important. We don't want to be like a boring place. You have to come with your notebook and pen. But, I really like training our staff to know everything about the sake and also the humans behind the bottle, like, what the kurabito said when they were talking about the fermentation of this, this guy cried when he released his sake because it was almost like a child to him, like all these different stories. Like I love my staff knowing everything, and then they could communicate that to our guests. And they come in saying like, oh, the one where the brewer was a winemaker, I want that one, so they associate it through different stories. So yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to do at Moto for sure.
So fantastic. And when you say, I'm trying to imagine you going to Japan, convincing the breweries. And
yeah, and there, it's me, this girl whose Japanese is very boro-boro, like I've told you before. It's not, sure, like I could have a conversation, but I'm not using, in Japan, you need to use very formal language to people who are your elders or in formal situation. I'm not very good with all that lingo.
Me neither.
There's me. No, definitely. We're at a different ball game. But basically there's me, this girl from London. And along with my business partner, we went everywhere together. But yeah, there must have been like, who is this? Just my age, my gender, like everything. It's just, it must have been bizarre. But I think hopefully the passion came across. And now I love how I have this personal relationship with all the breweries, and we're in constant communication, and I trust them with their, like, for example, this year, for the second shipment, I couldn't go to Japan to taste the products because of COVID. So I just trusted them by this point. I was just like, we want kind of like this, but do you recommend something different? And then they gave me recommendations, and it's worked perfectly. So I think having that direct relationship with the breweries, and we import everything directly ourselves too. So I think that's a big plus for us as well.
Absolutely. So when you were going through, I mean, even opening Moto London, but also communicating with these breweries, you mentioned gender, and have you found that being a woman made it a little bit more difficult doing all these creative, starting up all these things from scratch, or was it not really an issue?
So here in the UK, I'm very blessed to say that gender is not an issue at all when working with sake. And it's because for some reason, everyone or so many of the people who work with sake here in the UK are female.
Yeah.
There's lots of, and so that's why I'm sure the British public must think that like all Japanese females are these like powerhouses, these businesswomen, who's not the case at all in Japan, unfortunately. In Japan, I do think it's still harder for females to have equality within the workspace. It's the gender disparity is still something that Japan really needs to work on.
And it's getting
but somehow here in the UK, sake educators, importers, distributors, sake ambassadors, I know so many females. So I have all these almost mentors to look up to. So that's been great. The only time I thought that was kind of what you were mentioning when I would go to these different breweries. But I've also come to find that there's a lot of good people in the world of sake. People who somehow work with sake tend to be good humans, or at least I've been very blessed to come across only the good humans, and somehow the bad humans in sake are hiding away from me. I don't know, but it's just been such positive experiences. Like with yourself, we've just connected. It's just been cases like that. So luckily for me, I haven't experienced anything, but I think that this is a topic I love. That's why I love you're doing this series, because it's a topic that needs to be focused on a whole lot more in every sphere. And sake happens to be a world in which in Japan, hundreds of years, women weren't allowed in the breweries. They weren't allowed in the sake brewing, So it's great now that we're having a lot more female voices. And I think that's just gonna help with reviving sake,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're reaching so many new audiences with your kind of specific style of sake bar, because I was reading, I think the link from your Instagram, and I loved what you said about how you were choosing the place. Your categories. It's like a completely different audiences from a more traditional kind of Japanese restaurant.
It's true. And I think to reach new audiences, for sake to evolve, to become more mainstream, if you will, I think we need to start doing something different. I think there's always a place to appreciate sake at a nice traditional Japanese restaurant, but if we just keep on doing the same things, then sake won't grow, especially in the international sphere. And I think even back in Japan, I think these days now finally I see like really cool standing sake bars. Lots of people are serving sake in wine glasses like we do at Moto, but you always need to evolve with the times. Not losing your core, but evolving is very important, I think. And hopefully Moto could be a part of that movement, speaking to audiences in a different way. And I think, we don't want to come across as niche. We want to always listen to our customers and see what they're liking, what they're not liking. Education is such an important part. So sure, we're going to be portraying, the facts and some knowledge perhaps that people are unfamiliar with, but we don't want it to come across as not accessible, or we're just doing our own thing and you have to like accept our rules. That's not really what we're trying to do. At the end of the day, it needs to be a good time. You learn a few things, maybe maybe you learn a few things, and just for it to be a part of people's everyday. That's kind of the goal. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, actually, I used to go to school really close to where you are.
Really? Which school did you go to?
Let's see, which is like, I think,
Hey.
5 minutes walk. Well, I don't know how many, but yeah.
Yeah.
That time.
We do have some students that come by, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
and what is your audience, or who are your customers? They're a mix of British people, Japanese people. I mean, London is such a global metropolis.
It's true. And we are actually located kind of in the heart of Covent Garden. So Covent Garden, maybe for your audience who's not familiar with London, it's kind of very central, and it's kind of a place where there's a beautiful market and a lot of tourists like to go there. So before the pandemic, we had a lot of tourists just walking by. People who looked us up and came specifically for Moto were people who were British people who either loved Japanese culture, loved sake, loved Japanese food. It was usually something related to Japan. Whereas people walking by were just like, wow, what are these bottles on the wall? Like,
I got you. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
From outside, you can see those bottles. Oh, wow. All right.
So they would just like walk in, and they never had sake before, and we have like a sake flight where they could try 3 different sakes. So they would do that, and they would be like, oh, this is so interesting. So we did have a lot of tourists, but now after the pandemic, it's truly British people and Japanese people. We do have more and more Japanese people coming in, and it's lovely to hear them say that they've missed, it makes them feel like natsukashi, like nostalgic, which is nice. And so, yeah, we have a wide variety, actually. And we have younger people to older people, and we're a very small bar. In the UK, it's very small. In Japan, it's very common, but it's basically one bar, one bench seating, so not big at all. It's a very narrow, tiny space. But we hear like it's great for dates because it's very intimate, or a lot of people come on their own, sit at the bar, and now we're on first name basis with a lot of our regulars. So they just come in, they tell us about their day. So yeah, it's a wide range of people.
That's so fantastic. That's really amazing. I wish there was something like this right here.
Well, you never know.
So after 1 year of this, and you've already achieved so much, it sounds like. And what's your how do you see Moto or yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, so many things have changed in the last 5 or 10 years. So who knows about the future? But right now, again, our first year was interrupted so many times. So I am just excited for this upcoming year of, like releasing more food dishes, to do more like cross-cultural, like sake and food pairings. That's something that we've really wanted to concentrate on. More collaborations with different people in the industry, again, to just connect with people, not just about Japan or sake, but connecting with a French restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, a tea bar, whatever it is. Just doing all these different things would be really, really cool. Growing our team, thankfully we have such a tight-knit team, people from all walks of life. We have a Portuguese guy, British, Taiwanese. We have so many different people. Yeah, and they just have come to like really believe in the Moto mission. So I just really want to keep this tight-knit team and continue to grow like this. Something that's more personal to me, I guess, is how I've really come to find that the world of hospitality, as wonderful as it is with a lot of perks, it is a realm in which it's very tough for the people working in hospitality. It's a lot of long hours, lots of time on your feet. It's a customer service job at the end of the day. So you're dealing with a lot of different characters. You're eating at odd times. You're drinking a lot.
Have to be in the hospitality business.
You fit right in. But basically, you know, I hope I could somehow, you know, these are just thoughts at the moment, but I do hope that I could, in my own way, help shape a realm, the hospitality realm, so that not only is it great for people going to a restaurant or a bar, but for the people working in it. I think it would be nice if both sides are there in good health, feeling good. Yeah, so that's something that's on my mind. But yeah, just to grow, and we'll see what happens, basically. It's a very exciting time, so.
It is, and I think there's definitely a renewed appreciation for restaurants to be open. I mean, it's pandemic, it's
yes, you know, for me personally too, I'm just like I'm very fortunate. My boyfriend is a fantastic cook, so he's cooking all the time. But even then, I just want to go to a restaurant and be treated, you know. And I was so happy also when Moto reopened its doors after the first lockdown. Our regulars came back and they all said too, like, oh, I've just missed your aubergine dish, or I've missed this. And I was like, oh, this is so great. You know, like, sure, you're eating food and you're drinking drinks. You could do both those things at home, but there's something different about going to a bar or restaurant where you've created this amazing atmosphere. Yeah, so that's, I think, a silver lining, if you will, with this pandemic, is realizing things like that for sure.
Absolutely. And such a special place like that.
Seriously, I can't wait for you to come visit. It will be such a dream.
That's so fantastic. Wow, it's really quite spectacular. I mean, because you're really kind of addressing so many angles in the sake world. I mean, supporting the small scale brewers, you're educating your people and customers, and providing such a nice space. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, it's true, you know, but hopefully we could try to stay, you know, we do a lot of things, it's true. Like, we actually have a really amazing cocktail list as well. That's something I haven't even mentioned, but we have a sake
cocktail, or?
We have some sake-based cocktails, but also just to try to represent, you know, beverage drinking culture in Japan. I think there's a really cool cocktail scene in Japan as well. So we've tried to bring that in. We have an amazing bartender from Taiwan.
See it right here on your
oh, really?
on your page right now.
His cocktails, he's an actual genius, and he makes, like, I love what his every creation. So cocktails I don't touch, that's his department. So that's really cool. Again, our food offering, so far it's Japanese, but we're trying to venture into doing different things. We have some spirits as well, but you know, we do a lot of different things, but I think it's good to always come back to how it's about Japanese craft beverages, not showcased anywhere else in the UK, education, good times. I think as long as we could keep on sticking to these core values, we'll hopefully continue forwards.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so exciting. And Erika, I like how our names rhyme.
Yeah.
Erika.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic that someone like you exists.
I thought the same for you, actually. You know, sorry, I creeped on your profile a little bit, but just, you know, your career in the UN, and you even do face yoga, which is so cool. You kind of touch on a lot of different things, and I think that's necessary. You know, you don't just have to drink sake. You don't just have to open a bar. You could do different things. So.
Good. Oh, Erika, thank you really for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I wish you really all the best for sure. And whenever I get to London, I will
本当に
surely be there.
arms wide open. Can't wait to have you try all the sake, eat the food. And also, I would love to go to Poland. I've never been. So,
Yes, please open Moto Warsaw. I'm waiting for this opening.
trying very hard to keep the London one afloat, but we'll think about Poland for sure. Happy Friday! Go drink sake.
I will, even though everything is closed, but we have our home bar.
Yeah, me too. Not as good as this, but I have a few bottles to crack open.
What a
Well, thank you so much. じゃあね。